moving on to our first story, doing a follow-up on the Kick Vic stuff. Before I talk about the new stuff that has come up, I do want to push a few corrections because I want to make sure that we are held accountable, just like everyone else has been talking about some of this stuff. We made a few mistakes, and after that I also want to talk about a few logic traps that I think some people have been going through while talking about the story. But at first, let's correct a few things. So I said that Vic Mignogna was 59 years old last time that we talked about him. He actually just had a birthday and he just turned 56. It's to some people it doesn't really matter because still looking at the fact that some of these allegations started 15 years ago, he was still in his 40s irregardless, but still, it still is a mistake that I made, and I apologize for that. And I would also like to mention as well that when we talked about his secondary apology, he's made another apology, by the way, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but when we talked about his second apology, I said that the Risembool Rangers, that this was located on a forum. They did used to have a forum, and I don't know if their forums are still active. They actually have they've quieted down their forums, they've locked them down. However, there is a Discord, and that is where the apology actually happened. We don't have a Discord, so I don't have a lot of experience with it, so I thought those were just pictures from forums. No, they were from the Discord. So again, a few corrections that I wanted to make, but there is one thing I want to say, talking about the logic trap that I just brought up. So actually, no, before the logic trap, I want to say, if this is your first time watching a video from us, I would suggest, I know that the last Vic Mignogna video that we did was over an hour long, but I would suggest watching it if you can, and watching the entire thing. There are so many people that commented on that video. You can see the people who watched the video, the amount of people that watched it, not sure if they watched the whole thing through, but I can tell you from analytics, not everyone who clicked on the video watched the entire video. And you can tell just by looking at some of the comments where some people are saying, yeah, well, I don't think Vic Mignogna is a homophobe. And I sit there and I go, yes, I also said that in the video. And there's just a certain amount of things that after a while you're like, but I said that in the video. If you had watched the video, then you would have seen that I or Tristan had actually said something about whatever it is that you're saying that Vic Mignogna...
We should just have like a timestamp as the reply for those comments. Granted, that's...
No, it would be...
But...
No. But I would have to say, though, it would be nice if YouTube did have a way to timestamp, like, oh, when you make a comment, you're at this portion of the video. Because it would be nice, because with video that's that long and stuff like that, it would be nice to know where someone commented, because then potentially 5 minutes later, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't get to that part of the video when you said this. Anyway, but talking about the logic trap, though. So, yes, there are some people out there who are not going to be as well-versed about this topic as we have been, and other people have been who've either made videos or done articles about this and things like that, and I totally get it. Not everyone has to be on the up and up. But, Tristan, I have a question for you. I have to ask you a question. And I know I'm putting you on the spot here. I know, like, I don't know about you, but I'm not really good with logic-based questions, like, back, in school. But I still have to ask you something. If Vic Mignogna apologizes for something. So Vic Mignogna says, I am sorry that I did that. Did Vic Mignogna do it, or did he not do it? Tristan, I ask you a question. If Vic Mignogna apologized, if he says, I'm sorry that I did X thing, whatever the thing is, I'm sorry that I did that. Did Vic Mignogna do it, or did he not do it?
I mean, it would certainly imply that he did the thing that he is now apologizing for.
Exactly. And I only say this because there are a fair amount of people who watched our video, allegedly did because they were commenting, so I assume they had to watch at least a portion of the video, and who said, #IStandWithVic, Vic Mignogna has done nothing wrong. And it's very confusing because it's like, look, you can talk about the severity, you can talk about the allegations, you can say whether or not you believe them or not, but when Vic Mignogna in his apology says, I am sorry for X things that I have done wrong, then that means that Vic Mignogna did something wrong. It's extremely confusing to hear his apology. Again, maybe some people didn't hear the apology. To hear his apology and then be like, yeah, but he still did nothing wrong. But Vic apologized. Therefore, he is admitting to doing something wrong. You can try to talk about forgiving him all you want to and the severity of it if you like, but you can't say that Vic did nothing if he actually apologized for it. If Vic denied everything, I'm not saying that he should, but Vic denied every single thing, even the stuff that there's video evidence of and picture evidence of. If Vic has denied everything, then you go, oh, okay, well, he denied it. So if you say Vic did nothing wrong, You know, he's not even admitting to. But when he apologized and said, "I'm sorry that I've hurt people," and then there's pictures of some of the allegations and things like that, then you have to sit there and be like, "Look, you can say whatever you want to say about certain aspects of it, but you can't say that he did nothing. It's there." So it's a huge logic trap that really confuses me when Vic Mignogna has had 2 apologies, now a 3rd apology. You can't say that, like, why is Vic apologizing? Like, I'm going to be very honest with all of you guys. If someone said, "Matt, I'm accusing you of murder," I wouldn't be like, "Well, you know what, let me be polite. I'll just say that I'm sorry for murdering." Like, what? No, I would say that I didn't do it. I would say, "No, I did not do that." So if I did it, I would then say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." I don't know what you would say in that case, but still, it's this logic trap of people who are trying to defend him so vigorously that it's like, wait a minute, but he even apologized. So if you want to believe, someone on this, you should probably believe Vic Mignogna when he apologizes for doing some of the things that he's done and that he's been accused of doing. Now, another thing as well that I want to mention, there are some people who, I think that they're being well-meaning. I'm not saying that every single person who's saying this is not being well-meaning, but people are asking for evidence. And they're like, "Hey, man, I just want evidence of this. No evidence, then to me, that means that he didn't do it." It's a very hard thing to talk about evidence in a case like this, so simply due to the fact that, well, for a few reasons. First of all, if you didn't know this guy, and you're just watching the news, right? So, Tristan and I don't know, like, if your family watches the news like mine does, Tristan, but every morning news is on, different things are being reported on the news. I've never thought when I hear a story about, a man either has been arrested or a man is on the run for, like, stabbing his wife, right? Like, he stabbed his wife, like, 90 times. My first thought is never, like, "I don't know, man, I don't see video of it. Where's the knife? Do we have video proof of this? Because otherwise, what if she just stabbed herself 90 times? Do you know what I mean? Like, when things are reported to you on the news, like there's a lot of articles that are talking about this now and videos and stuff like that. When things are reported to you, I'm not saying to not question anything because that's silly. Just in the last video, I said, hey, do some research yourself. Definitely. We can't show every single picture. We can't talk about every single allegation. We can't do that because we would be here forever. There has been a lot of allegations. But when you're watching the news, it's very interesting how you just immediately just go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's being reported to me." You don't just go, "Man, I don't know. I'm not going to judge anyone on this. Hey, maybe they shouldn't even be reporting on it because I haven't seen the knife. I didn't see the murder or the stabbing or the violence. So I don't know, man." It's like, no, you sit there and you go, "Oh, wow." Especially if it's something like a stabbing or something like that, you say what I assume many people say is, "Holy shit, 90 times? What the fuck?" Like, you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, who could do something like that?" You don't sit there and go, "I don't know. I'll have to wait till it actually goes to trial to have an opinion on this." I never really hear that. So I think if you're saying this about Vic Mignogna, you should probably sit back for a second and go, wait a minute. Is my love of Vic Mignogna's work, or even Vic Mignogna, the person, of what you know of him, is that potentially clouding your judgment? And it could be. It could be. And I'm not trying to say that you're a terrible person if it clouds your judgment. I'm just saying that when you're watching the news and things are reported to you, do you always, after every single story, go, "I don't know, man. I mean, it could just easily be her. Like, it could be the woman, or it could just be the man." Like, if you're sitting here, because I've seen some people online that are like, "Oh, Vic Mignogna didn't do this." And you go, "Oh, well, why?" And they say, "Because women lie all the time." It's like, well, I don't... If you're asking for evidence and your evidence is women lie all the time, that's a little odd. I don't think the two are being weighed appropriately. Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about some of the new stuff that has come up, though. So first of all, there is a lot of cons have been dropping him, right? A lot of cons. At first, it was a few cons here and there, like Anime NYC had dropped him. Right. Vic had canceled his Planet Comic-Con appearance. So some of these cons, it does seem like they were mutual. Ranger Stop also canceled the Vic Mignogna appearance. We've also had, let's see here, I want to make sure I get every... Yeah, there was some cons. I didn't know if Emerald City Comic-Con had dropped him or not, but now from the looks of it, a lot of cons. If it's an anime convention in the US, it seems like almost all of them have dropped him. other than Anime Matsuri, which Anime Matsuri, I'm not going to get into that right now because this is a story about Vic, not about other conventions. However, it's interesting that Anime Matsuri, their founder, and who's still running Anime Matsuri, has also been accused of being a little perverse with cosplayers. So it's interesting that they would be the one that would keep him. Just putting that out there. I'm not saying that he did it or not. Again, we haven't done research on this, so I don't want to sit there. It's an allegation. These are allegations. Another thing, too, by the way, I want to mention if you're tuning in for the first time, we bring up the word allegation not to say that the victim story should not be heard, the alleged victims should not be heard, or that that they're lying. We just say that because we have to do our due diligence and talk about them as allegations for the time being, because Vic Mignogna has not been arrested over any of these things. However, some of the stuff that we say are not allegations and are a lot more in your face are when there's pictures and then there's women's accounts with the pictures that are saying, hey, I was either underage or I did not want this, or both. So I don't know what to say there. Like, I can't just sit there and be like, well, there's no proof. It's like, well, there's pictures. Like, what do you do when there's actual, like, pictures in front of you? And you talk about wanting evidence. Well, it's right there in those certain situations. So cons have been dropping him. I don't know about your take on this, Tristan. My take is, personally, I think that with a lot of these allegations coming from cons, directly from cons, and especially some of the allegations, again, having pictures right next to them, having different video right next to them, and also even just looking at some of his apologies that we've seen thus far that have not been good. Especially the one with the Risembool Rangers, where he literally was saying that people are just lying. Why would you, as a company, why would you want to invite him to your con and have him be the face of your convention? So I don't know about your take on that part, Tristan. But for me personally, I'm okay with him being dropped from cons, at least for a few years, at the very least for a few years, because again, it's just like a lot of these allegations come from cons.
From cons, I would agree on that point. I would say he should back away from, appearing at different cons, at least for a while, at the very least.
Yeah, exactly.
Be like, just to give it that time of, maybe he can, clean up his act and not have more allegations come out against him.
But you have to have some time to heal. And when you talk,
the apologies that he gives are sincere,
if they are,
right.
That's the thing. Like, if the apologies are sincere, we don't, like, when people talk about apologies and forgiving. It's interesting because some people are like, forgive him. He's apologized, forgive him. And it's like, well, first of all, you don't have to, no one has to accept anyone's apology. But more importantly, when you hear his apology, it's like, okay, those are words. Let's see actions back that up. Also, one correction, I feel really bad, speaking of apologies, I did not bring this up earlier, and I definitely want to now. He has apologized in the past. I believe last time we implied that he has never apologized about any of this stuff. So I should clarify, he has apologized in the past. We don't have video evidence of that in front of us, but I'm pretty sure there is video out there of him apologizing at different panels in the past. But again, remember, more allegations have come out after some of those apologies.
Right.
So we also have to take that into account as well. And that is something that we, again, do have to take into account as we look at both his apologies and also him being removed from cons. This is not another trap that people are falling into, even though we've talked about it in our last video and people are talking about it all over online. This is not the first time these allegations have come up. Right. They came up when, we've known them. Tristan and I've heard about them since, let's see, if I'm thinking about when we were in high school, that's at the least 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Which, good God, we're getting old. 8 years ago. These aren't new. 9 years ago. This has nothing to do with Dragon Ball Super Broly. Yes, these have come back up with Dragon Ball Super Broly being released, but this is not simply a way to attack Vic Mignogna, to take him down just because Dragon Ball Super Broly is doing well. Right. These allegations have been out since he was in, FMA for the first time. So,
yeah.
And not Brotherhood. From us, yes, Brotherhood, that's around the time we heard about it. But I'm talking about even before Brotherhood, the original FMA. And that should also be taken into account as well. So, Hans have been dropping him. There's also 2 articles that have been released. one article by Polygon, one article by Anime News Network, and there's some other articles from Anime News Network reporting on newer stuff that he's being dropped from, but I want to talk about these two articles, in particular the one by Polygon and the one by Anime News Network, for one reason and one reason only. Looking at the two articles and having bigger, more mainstream news outlets talking about this is an amazing thing. Yes, again, there are allegations, so in no way are they calling for Vic Mignogna to be thrown into prison, thrown into Guantanamo Bay, to be executed on spot or anything like that. But they're talking about these allegations that people have been talking about for a very long time, but whose voices have not been heard. Now, I do have a problem with Polygon's article, because when I looked at it, I felt like it was a bit too bare bones. Look, I'm not saying that you need to show every single thing on Twitter. That does become a problem because, of course, some people don't even have their faces attached to their Twitter. So I get it. A reputable news outlet doesn't want to post every single thing that every single person has been posting about. But I do believe that the Polygon article was very shallow. And I think someone looking at that article didn't really get the whole story or get most of what was going on with Vic Mignogna, and potentially could just come from it going, oh, I guess he was kind of mean a bit and he apologized. So I don't know. The Anime News Network article, the fact that they had those pictures included, yes, right. They blurred out people's faces, which is a good thing. They had those pictures included, and they had Jesse Pridemore's story, and they had other stuff in there as well, stuff that I hadn't even heard about. Right. Like Vic giving his phone number to a person and not even talking to them about anything. Just here's my number, I guess, and then let's have some conversations, and not knowing their age at the time. It was just, even if you want to say, hey, but that's not illegal. No, but it's still odd. It's still creepy. And I'm not saying that Vic Mignogna, based on the allegations that we've proven, immediately needs to be thrown into jail for, till he dies. He's going to rot in prison. Based on the allegations that have been proven, I am not saying that. But it is still something we need to look at, because for anyone that's like, oh, it's not a big deal. Think about you at your job. And I'm not even talking about you, Tristan. I'm talking about like the general you. Think about you at your job. Any job you have. Yeah. If you were accused of a fraction of the stuff that Vic Mignogna was accused of, and then on camera there are pictures of you hugging underage girls, and then the women, and these women come out and say, hey, I didn't want that touching from him. Right. Would you just be allowed, like, oh, no, don't worry, there's going to be a legion of fans coming out going, he didn't mean to hurt you? Like, no, you would be let go immediately. Like, if Tristan, if this happened to you at your old job at Stop and Shop, your manager wouldn't listen to Tristan Walters' fans on the floor. Like, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Tristan didn't mean to hurt those women. It's like, no, your manager would be... You'd be let go immediately. Your manager would look at you and would look at the fan and go, look, I want you and him off of my floor right now. That's what I want. I want you both gone, or I will call security. So why are we treating this job any differently like we would treat any other job? Yeah. Why are we treating this job like, well, did Vic Mignogna mean to hurt people? Like, I think there's this disconnect, and maybe it's our fault. Maybe it's my fault, because we didn't really define and talk about the idea that alleged sexual assault or sexual assault doesn't mean that there's a sexual wanting attached to it necessarily. So I think some people are under the impression that, oh, if Vic Mignogna didn't want to touch these girls inappropriately, like he wasn't like leering at them or like pulling them in tight and really loving it, that it's okay. And it's like, no, that's not how the law works. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how the law works. If people are talking about this from a law perspective, from a legal perspective, and even taking it out of a legal perspective, that's just not how the world works. Like, intent does not equal impact. And we do have to acknowledge that, because Vic Mignogna may not have intended to be weird with these women and with these young girls, but he was, and they're coming out and saying, hey, I don't like that he was that way to me. And also another thing, too, we have to think about as well is people try to talk about, oh, well, there's so many people out there that love Vic Mignogna, that never had a problem with Vic Mignogna. And here's the thing, right? By the numbers, that's probably true. There are probably a lot of people out there who have never had a problem with Vic Mignogna. But here's the one thing we have to think about here. If, let's say, 10 people have had a problem with Vic Mignogna, let's say 10 people per convention, So 10 people every convention, just 10 people. Very small number, people think. 10 people every convention. We have to think about the fact that Vic Mignogna has been doing this for over 15 years now. So times 10 by every single convention that he's ever been to, both in the US and abroad, because there are some stories from him in Australia where people were like, this guy's a little weird. So from US and abroad, for the last 15 years, even though there are obviously hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who have not had a problem with Vic Mignogna, there's still a minority of people who are sitting here like, hey, but I've had problems. So we should, like we've been saying, hear their voices.
Right.
That's what it's about. Yeah.
And the idea that, okay, just because he hasn't made you feel uncomfortable or hasn't been rude to you doesn't mean that he hasn't done this to other people, and that you shouldn't consider their feelings and maybe not be as, into this voice actor as
you could be into his work.
Or at least just think about it and be like, okay, this didn't happen to me, but this is seemingly happening to other people. You should be conscious of that.
Exactly.
And be like,
that's all it is.
Needs to be done about it.
Yeah, and something needs to be done. Even if you want to say,
you really want that person, Vic in this case, do you want them now to be the person you go, oh yeah, they're a great person, they're a great voice actor, everything's great about them, when
you don't even know this guy? And some people were saying in the comments last video, oh, well, I know Vic. And it's like, well, are you his, girlfriend? Are you, his dad, his mom, his aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, nephew? What do you mean you know him? It's like, well, how do you know him? Well, I've seen him at 5. That's right, 5 conventions. And by the way, that's a hypothetical. But still, people are just like, I've seen him at conventions, and he was very nice to me. You don't know him. Technically, here's the funny thing. And I know this is going to sound terrible, but I'm just going to put this out there because it's technically true. If you watch both of our videos, you might arguably have spent more time with us than you have with Vic Mignogna. And you are defending Vic Mignogna completely, 100%. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. Or downplaying what he may have done. You may have spent more time with us, spent time with us, quote unquote, just watching our videos. Then you on this Vic Mignogna subject, then you have with Vic Mignogna the brief time that you've seen him at a con, either in a panel or got a handshake and a hug and an autograph. And again, we're not saying that every single hug is one that someone didn't want. We're just saying that based on these pictures that were in the Anime News Network article, a lot of these were hugs that people either didn't want, or in one case, in one picture that we talked about last time, where a woman said, hey, no, I wanted that hug, so stop lumping me in with people who didn't want the hug. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. So then how old were you at the time? And she said 14 years old. And it's like, well, if we're saying that he has a history of hugging people who are underage that closely and that tightly, even if you wanted the hug, okay, so you wanted the hug, but it still goes along with, it's so interesting how it's like, wait, but don't you realize that when you say you're 14, that even though it's not part of one quote unquote MO, if you will, of him hugging women and them not wanting it or not asking, now it's in the underage category that people were talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway, but we were talking about people saying, hey, well then maybe we can get him out from cons, but why is he being fired? And if you want to talk about him not being fired from stuff, because he has been let go both from Ruby, as he voiced the character of Crow, and also in an anime called Monokian, he actually has been replaced by Ian Sinclair, which, by the way, technically counts as the most Funimation has said on the issue. Because Funimation has said nothing about this thus far. Funimation, one of the companies, not the only company that, of course, has ever worked with Vic, but one that's worked with him rather closely throughout the years, has not commented at all about this. That's the closest thing that they've done is recast him in a new anime. Now, I gotta be honest, Tristan, I gotta tell you that my thoughts on it personally, I don't care if Funimation never talks about it. But, here's the thing, but they have to do something in turn. They just quietly let him go for this either foreseeable future or at least for a certain amount of time. Because I would rather them not say anything and let him go rather than say some big thing as just trying to placate people. And then all of a sudden we see, let's say, like a new episode of Super and Broly's in it and Vic is Broly.
Right.
So I would prefer them saying nothing and just recasting him when necessary. I know some people would want both, of course, but personally I think that I'd rather have less lip service and more action.
Yeah.
Rather than a company coming out and trying to placate people and thinking like, oh, is this what you want us to say? I don't care about your prepared statements. I care about your actions. And in this case, I consider this a really good action. Having him replaced when necessary. And also the fact that that even though Funimation hasn't come out and said anything, certain voice actors have. So in some way or another. So one voice actor in particular is actually Chris Sabat. I want to see if I can find the tweet, because someone tweeted at him, interestingly enough. So it's not even like he came out about this directly, but someone tweeted at him. And also Sean Schimmel, who is the voice of Goku. Very interesting, because Sean has not said anything about it personally, but what he did do is, if you can look on Twitter, people can see in Sean Schimmel's likes and stuff like that, you can actually see that he has liked some Kick Vic stuff, which I know for some people they're like, oh, but who cares? It's a nothing burger. He hasn't actually said anything about it. It's still telling, though, that he would feel comfortable at this point to even come out in any way about it. Maybe he's an older person. Maybe he doesn't know that, you could see likes and stuff like that. But still, very interesting that he would bring that up, that he would do that. And also Chris Sabat, I want to get the entire tweet here because I have a portion of it, but I want to get the whole thing. Oh God, the cough is coming back. No, because we have Chris Sabat here saying, wow, someone got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, eh? Firstly, I don't write the Dragon Ball Super scripts. I also think you're being too sensitive about them. And second, I favor ways to solve problems instead of just whining or bragging about it on the internet. So this was in a reply to both Vic Mignogna and to Neo Diver Down. And then this person had replied saying, let's see, let's see here. Oh, because someone had, sorry, not Neo Diver Down, looking at someone else's reply. Someone said, please be careful. Been seeing a lot of VAs going crazy over this, and I would hate to see them turn on you just for the social media hype. So what that person is implying is that apparently these VAs like Monica Real and a few other VAs who have come out and said, yes, I stand with the victims, hashtag Kick Vic. Apparently due to that, there are some people out there that are like, wow, people are just... Instead of thinking, oh, these people might actually know Vic Mignogna more than I do, people are saying, wow, I can't believe that voice actors are throwing Vic Mignogna under the bus.
Yeah.
It's like, I think Vic Mignogna may have thrown Vic Mignogna under the bus when not only with some of his terrible apologies, but also the fact that we have video and picture evidence of a fair amount of the stuff that he's been accused of. Anyway... but talking about so that was Martin's reply at Mediocre Fan, and then Chris Sabat had said in response, by VAs going crazy, do you mean VAs supporting the victims and sharing their own experiences? Because that's not quote unquote going crazy, that's called quote unquote being honest. You should probably pay close attention to them because those are the people who actually know what's going on. So it's like, wow, like that to me. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I know like Chris Sabat isn't obviously the CEO of Funimation. He isn't necessarily running things over there, but that's a pretty big thing to have him come out and discuss when it comes to this Kick Vic controversy, because he could have just said nothing at all. It's Twitter. He's not in an interview with someone where he can't get out of it.
Right.
Like, it's just,
And there's even a follow-up to that. It's like, oh, this is, a lot coming from the guy who... hired and directed him for Broly. And it's like, well, I didn't.
Yes, exactly. Yes, of course, because that's the thing, too, that we have to also understand as well is a few things I think that some people might not understand about voice acting and being in this industry and stuff like that. So people that might have, quote-unquote, worked with Vic Mignogna, like looking at a Sean Schimmel, right? Someone might go, oh, well, why, Sean Schimmel, why is he coming out now when he's been working with Vic for years? Unless we're talking about at a specific panel sitting next to each other, which you could. Right. Other than that, Vic Mignogna and Sean Schimmel could be in the same projects for literally hundreds of years, right? Long after human lives, but they don't have to work together on anything at all. Unlike Japanese voice acting,
physically see each other in the booth.
At recordings. Exactly. So, and when you look at a situation like with Vic Mignogna and some other people coming out, they could also be working with Vic, quote unquote, but never actually know Vic Mignogna or even hear about him. Although, of course, people have been coming out saying that they've heard about some of these allegations for years, like Monica Reel, who's talked about the fact that she's actually talked about this on 2 different occasions out loud. So she's, screamed about this for years now, and no one has done anything. Now, of course, you're going to have some people say, only 2 times, though? Like, could she have not have brought it up more throughout the years? Only twice. No, but you know what I say to that, Tristan? Okay. Yeah. No, here's what I say, right? Let's concede to that point. She only brought it up twice, and some voice actors have never brought it up at all, other than when they feel protected and their job isn't on the line. Okay, let's just put that out there. Let's say we agree to that. So does that mean that we're going to say that what she did or other people did is comparable to alleged sexual assault? Are we really going to do that right now? Are we really going to say that she and other people are on the same level as Vic Mignogna inappropriately touching these women or some of the other stuff that he has allegedly said and done? We're going to say that it's the same thing. Really? Are we really going to play that both sides bull crap? Where we're going to sit here and be like, well, one side has not reported on some of the stuff that's gone on, alleged stuff, and the other side did it. I don't know which one's worse. I don't know which one's... Maybe if Vic Mignogna wasn't doing some of this stuff, then there would be nothing that people would have to report. That's also a thought. Yeah. But it's a thought that some people either don't want to have or just don't have. And if you didn't have it and you just heard it right now and you're like, oh shit, that's true. All right, cool. Right? I'm happy that, this finally came to mind. But the fact that we're going to sit here and compare one side who has not reported on this as much as they potentially should have versus another side that did it, I just think that's ludicrous that we've gotten to this point of the conversation. And moving on to some other stuff as well, let's see here. Before we get to the new apology, which I think if it was the only apology, I think it would actually mean a fair amount, but the fact that it is the 3rd apology, it kind of takes away that feeling of I guess authority.
You're sorry for your actions and that you're willing to not do those actions again, so you therefore don't have to apologize for them again.
Yes, exactly. But I want to put that aside for a second. I want to get to that a little bit later, because even before talking about the apology, I want to talk about a few things. Again, some stuff that I think maybe some people would be like, why is this a big deal? But it is still stuff that has happened. And it's still, because if we don't talk about this, if we're like, oh, well, who cares? Why are we taking, people's accounts into account? It's like, well, then we wouldn't be talking about any of this. Right. And also another thing as well that should also be noted, because I didn't mention this earlier, I was supposed to, but I was unable to. When people talk about, oh, well, this is like a witch hunt, this is like a lynch mob, this is, there's no evidence of this, because evidence would mean that someone would be arrested already. There's one thing I want to mention. Just one thing I want to mention, though, about that, though. The fact that Tristan and I know this, eyewitness accounts actually do count in a court of law. So if you want to talk about this from a law perspective, eyewitness accounts do matter. So when you say, oh, well, how do we know if the eyewitnesses are being legit? Well, that's why in a court of law you have lawyers and you have a jury and you have a judge and you have a bunch of people.
Your testimony is taken under oath that you're not lying.
Yes, of course. So, and I understand if someone's saying, but how do we know if some of these people are lying with their eyewitness testimony? I get it. I do. But the fact is that we can't just say, oh, well, if we don't know whether or not they're lying, we can't hear any of it. Right. Stop talking. Stop talking. Yeah. Stop talking about it. It doesn't matter.
That doesn't mean stop talking about it.
Exactly. And so we need to take that into account, because there are a fair amount of people who are just like, well, if there's no evidence, then, and again, that comes back to what I brought up earlier, where it's like, what do you need? Because I have to be real with you guys. Very real. I would be suspicious more than I have ever been about any of these Vic Mignogna allegations if someone had clear 4K video of the event. I would be a little confused. I'd be like, really? Someone's saying that this happened, at this convention and that this was a quick thing, but for some reason it's in 4K and people were accusing him of doing this in 08? Like, there was 4K cameras in 08? I don't think so. Like, I would be so confused if there was, like, pristine, good-looking video of this, I would be more weary of it and a little giving a little side eye rather than now. Because if you guys don't remember last time when I talked about this, I still have the phone next to me somehow. The fact that when these allegations were being made, phones like this existed. We didn't have smartphones. You didn't have, like, right now I have a webcam connected where I'm live streaming. Live streaming did not exist the way that it did now when these allegations were happening. YouTube did not even exist when some of these allegations were first starting up. And YouTube, when it did exist, was in its infancy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that we have to think about that. We have to go that far back in the past. But I think that some people are sitting here thinking about the culture that we have now and how we have, you know, people with cameras attached to their face with GoPros 24/7 to the point where it's like you might as well get it implanted in your eye like an episode of Black Mirror, right? Like, that's how people are now. But this was not the case in the mid-2000s when phones like this existed. Look at this screen. Anyway, putting that aside, though, for a second, I just want to talk about some more stories like we were going to earlier. Apparently, one woman's story about Vic Mignogna judging a Twister contest, which is so confusing because, again, like, even if you know all of their ages and you're like, none of them are under 18, which the woman who alleged that something had happened, she was not under 18, but she was talking about, this is in 2007 or 2008, she attended a con with a dozen friends and they had a Twister contest, which sounds like, all right, this is a normal Twister contest, who cares, until Vic Mignogna starts touching some of the, including her, some of the participants of the contest. And also remember that I said earlier that he's judging this. So it's not like a Twister contest happened and it was from some Risembool Rangers and then Vic heard about it later. Vic was judging a Twister contest with his own fans. Does this mean that he is some, you know, creepy pervert who wanted to touch her? Again, I'm not making that judgment. What I am saying is that he touched her inappropriately on her butt while she was bent over for a Twister contest. I can't imagine any context. Like, I used to be a speech and debate coach. You know what we didn't do? Fucking Twister contests. We didn't fucking do this. Like, it's just crazy to think about other jobs that I've had or that you've had, Tristan, or that other people have had, and try to sit here and be like, oh, you know, even though he may not have wanted to be inappropriate, because he didn't want to be inappropriate, it's fine. Just let him keep on going to cons and having Twister contests and, you know, and voicing over these roles. It's fine. Who cares? Other than the people who have been, who are accusing him of being inappropriate, who cares? It's like after a while it starts to grate on me because I don't legitimately know what to do anymore. When you have people coming up with these, you know, coming out with these stories. Right. And then you have people coming up with these counter arguments that are like, but it didn't happen to me, so who cares? Or it wasn't a big deal. So we judged a Twister contest. What, do you want to throw him in jail? No, but we should be talking about it regardless.
Yeah, not it should be talked about, and maybe he shouldn't be making these con appearances where he can, therefore, have this behavior happen again.
Exactly. And talking about the Risembool Rangers, we have some really weird stuff to talk about. So, allegedly, the Risembool Rangers have been harassing Boycott Anime Matsudi's Facebook page. That's one thing, because Anime Matsudi has come out and said, hey, so we've been getting harassed. And then we hear that these Risembool Rangers, or if not Risembool Rangers, potential hashtag IStandWithVic folk, exist, because they didn't even know about the controversy. They were like, oh, this makes sense, actually, because Vic Mignogna's going to that con, and now we're getting a lot of people flooding in, harassing us and giving us death threats and shit like that. So that's one thing. But again, maybe it's not the Risembool Rangers, so we shouldn't put that on them. That's why I want to say it's potentially them. However, this does exist, however, and you can find this yourself if you look it up. It will be posted, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, it will be posted in the description box down below. Apparently, there was a live journal with the Risembool Rangers, and they used to call, and maybe you could say it was just just like with Vic Mignogna using the word Holocaust. It was just a slight. It's the wrong word to use. But they called Vic Mignogna, not their leader. You would think that calling him their leader would be like, oh, okay, well, that's a little odd. I mean, he is running the group, I guess, but still weird. No, they're quoted as, we are fans of the great Führer Vic Mignogna, and we shall conquer this world and crush those that cough. Which you could say, oh, the joke is that, you know, he's like their great leader. But again, if they had used the word leader, I wouldn't be sitting here and being like, oh, this is a weird story. Because I'm not trying to, because some people online are trying to, even like Mars Girl, are trying to say like, oh, Risembool Rangers are tantamount to a cult. I don't know if I want to go that far and call them a cult, right? I don't know if I want to, but what I do want to say is, this is some weird shit. Now, that doesn't mean that all of them are, you know, Holocaust deniers and that they believe in Hitler. No, it's just fucking weird. And it would be odd if we didn't talk about this, especially when, again, Vic Mignogna comes out in his apology, tells them to defend him fervishly as he does, and then they not only defend him and potentially send out, you know, death threats and rape threats and things like that, but then they also have a history of calling him the Führer. Yeah. It's just something that we have to bring up, just in case anyone, because again, there are some people that are like, well, again, both sides, I don't know which side to look at here. It's like, well, I don't know about the people that used to call him the Führer, if that should be, especially when the show that they like him in, assuming, you know, FMA.
Right, I was going to say, if you've ever watched Full Metal Alchemist.
He was the bad guy.
Führer is the bad guy in that show. Just saying.
Also, something as well that I think in any other context I wouldn't have a problem with it, but just something else to bring up as well when it comes to the Risembool Rangers, the fact that Vic Mignogna's mom actually runs the Facebook group, which is, and also asked people if my son has been sent, anyone is saying bad things about my son, please send me those videos so we can collect them all. So it's kind of a situation where, like, look, I understand if I was accused of something, why my mom would be like, my boy didn't do that. I love my baby boy. I mean, Tristan, you know my mom. You know how my mom is very, you know, is very much my mom. But I would tell my mom, especially if I was 56 years old, Mom, don't do that. Stop, get off of the Facebook group. Like, I would ban her from being part of the group. Like, for anyone that's like, but it's his mom, what's wrong with that? It's like, are you in your teens? Are you in your 20s? Like, how old are you when, like, a man in his 50s has his mom defending him, not only on her social media, because if it was on her social media, I wouldn't be talking about this. I wouldn't care if it was on her personal Facebook. But the fact that she calls herself the matriarch and she's running his personal fan club group is really weird. Especially with some of these other stories that have come out about him with the Risembool Rangers and stuff like that, either through ANN or like other stuff as well. It's just weird that the guy that, it's just, again, I'm not saying that it's illegal, that he should be in jail. It's, you know, for his mom running the group. It's just weird that the guy that's alleged to use his group to quote unquote troll for booty, it's weird that that's the same guy whose mom is running the group. It's just fucking weird. Again, is it illegal? No. It's just weird. And I know some people out there are going to be like, Matt, just stick to the stuff that's illegal. But again, I feel like if we let this stuff just kind of go on by and don't talk about it, it makes it seem like, oh yeah, who cares about that? Like, it's like, you know, like just because it might not be illegal doesn't mean that there isn't a problem with it. Right? Yeah. Or that there isn't something that we should talk about and that we should discuss, because that's fucking weird. It's just fucking weird is what it is. Also, I want to talk about, before we move on, we didn't focus too much on the Anime News Network article. I talked about how I enjoyed it and how I feel like they did their due diligence, but we didn't talk about it much after that. So I want to talk about a few things. One thing that I didn't like, and it's hard to get, but it's still something that I think was very frustrating. While I'm happy that they did end up using mosaic on the women's faces, especially because some of them are underage, they didn't ask the women about using the pictures. And I think that's a little frustrating. Again, though, had they asked, that one woman who was underage at the time, who said that she wanted Vic to hug her, probably wouldn't have let them use her photo, despite the fact that it is damning evidence that Vic Mignogna clearly does not ask before taking, you know, either pictures or not taking pictures, but hugging people. Like, you should make sure that if you're hugging someone that tightly and that close, that you know how old they are. And that's what we've really been saying since day one, right? Even if you're trying to say that, hey, you know, he doesn't want to hug these women, he's not doing this because he gets some sick pleasure out of it, it's still something that should be addressed irregardless. Also, the fact that we talked about a little bit earlier, we talked about Vic Mignogna giving his phone number to an underage fan, and then talking to that underage fan named Azure, Azure. This was at Anime Expo 2006 in Anaheim, California. We talked about that, but we didn't really go into depth with, like, just, again, what celebrity can you guys think of? Think about celebrities. What celebrity can you think of that would just give you their phone number? And by the way, not even ask your age. Just be like, whatever, sure, here you go. And then have conversations with you, and then your age never comes up, potentially. Like, it's just one of those things where, again, even if you didn't want anything sexual from it, it's just odd. Like, it's just odd. And it's something that I think he should have definitely been more in tune with and thought about.
Yeah.
Even if there was, yeah.
It kind of feels, it's not something that you see in, other celebrities either. Like, there's a difference between being close to your fans and wanting to, get to know your fans than handing out your personal phone number. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, I've never seen anybody. I mean, personally, I haven't seen anyone do that, but like, in this day and age, or even not even
in 06,
yeah, in 06 either.
Yes.
Like don't do that.
Yeah, no, like, there's some people out there that are like, Vic Mignogna, he's just old-fashioned. What year was that okay? What year did that happen? Like, Tristan, remember, like, in 98, a lot of celebrities were just giving out their phone numbers to random people on the street. It was a whole big thing. Like, I mean, no one does that.
The other way around, because the celebrity doesn't want to be, harassed or followed. Yeah. But in this case, it seems to, shoes on the other foot. Now it's the celebrity harassing the other people.
Exactly. And I also want to bring up something I brought up last time. Let's say Vic Mignogna gave out, even though he should have known that person was underage, let's say he gave out that number to her at the time, presenting as her at the time, now him, Azure. But let's say Vic Mignogna gave that number out because he wanted to have sex with that person. I do not care if Vic Mignogna wants to have sex with his fans. What I care about is how old they are, and if he's not going around asking before giving out his phone number and before touching people how old they are, and also, of course, if they want to be touched, then that's the whole point of this #KickVic controversy. You can say it's sleazy if you want to, if he's sleeping with his fans, but I truly do not care if they are of age, and he makes sure that they are of age before giving his phone number out. Like, that's something that I think anyone, I'm not talking about being a celebrity, anyone should be cognizant of before giving out their phone number. And it's not like he's been doing this, it's not like he was doing this at bars or things like that. He's doing this at a con that is not an over 18 plus con. Anyone can come to these cons. And it's just one of those things where we do need to address this. So again, for people that are like, but again, it's not illegal, so why address it? Well, because if nobody talks about this, then this just happens and people get away with this, and no one talks about the fact that this is something that we shouldn't, like, this should never been accepted in the anime community. This should have never been accepted. He should have talked to people normally. Yeah. And then trying to find ways, if he's not even trying to do it sexually, just trying to find ways to know how old someone is before you give them your personal phone number. Like, the dude is in his 40s. Like, it's just so odd. I cannot understand. Even if you like Vic Mignogna and you want his phone number, I can't understand why you would say, hey, he was just trying to be nice. It's just like, okay, but it's just odd. It's just extremely odd at the very least. Now, before we talk about Vic Mignogna's newest apology, I want to talk about what Jessie Pridemore had said and what some people are saying about her. Jessie Pridemore is a cosplayer, a very popular cosplayer, and she recently recounted her experience with Mignogna at Anime Next 2011, and it's a very strange situation only due to the fact that Pride more talks about the fact that she had drank a lot, and one of her friends came out and talked. I forgot his full name because this story isn't technically about the alleged sexual assault that happened with her and with Todd Haberkorn. So that's not supposed to be about that. But what happened was that she accused another voice actor of sexually assaulting her, and then Todd Haberkorn came out and said, "It was me, but we had consensual sex." And it was like, all right, Todd, but nobody was fucking asking. Like, Todd, you probably should not, like, just come out and say, yes, I'm the one who, I didn't sexually assault her, but we had sex. It's like, all right, but maybe some people were guessing that it was him, but it's just so odd that he came out even talking about it at all. But what happened is, that's the initial story. So she came out and said, hey, I had a lot of drinks, and then I was sexually assaulted by an anime voice actor in the community. Didn't talk about Haberkorn. Haberkorn came out on his Facebook, which, by the way, the post has since been deleted. You wonder why. Saying, hey, she and I had a consensual relationship that night, but we were both drinking. Anyway, so, and she was an adult at the time. What she talks about, not about what happened with her and Haberkorn, she then went on to talk about the fact that Mignogna apparently was talking to her about what happened. So she was talking to Mignogna, not that she was confiding in him, but this was in public at Anime Next, that out in public, he was talking to her, and apparently Mignogna slid his hand up her back and through her hair before grabbing and tugging it. And then he had mentioned, oh, if so-and-so can have you, apparently I can too, huh? And it's like, even if you don't think that it's a sexual assault, who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck would do that? Like, it's just one of those things where it's just like, and even if you say, hey, but I don't know about this story, I don't know about, if Vic Mignogna did this, I don't know about if Todd Haberkorn did that. Look, I don't want to get in between any of that. All I'm saying is that this is her story. We want to discuss her story because we want to make sure that no stone is left unturned, especially, by the way, her being such a huge cosplayer. She has a lot to lose from this as well.
Yeah.
Like, she isn't someone who has, and I'm not trying to knock anyone who has not come forward at all, but she doesn't have some fake username with an anime profile picture. Her face is all over this.
Right.
So anyone saying like, oh, what does she have to lose? A lot. Like, her face is all over this. So anyone accusing her of lying, understand that, she is not someone who, I think some people don't understand how allegations like this work. They think that anyone, be it if you're bringing in politics on the left, everyone on the left, a second someone says, I am accusing so-and-so of rape, they get like applauded, and like entire theaters of people sit up and they're just like, you go, girl. It's like, no, when
they're either doing it for some kind of monetary gain or, through a lawsuit or something like that.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Just by existing as a woman online, she's getting death threats and rape threats. And now that she's coming out with this, what do you think people are just like, people who disagree with her on this are like, oh, I don't know if she did it. I don't know if Vic did it or not. No, not all of them, obviously, but some of them are sending her now more death threats and more rape threats.
Right.
Like, anytime someone comes out with an accusation, it's not immediately like, oh, well, let's praise them and let's give them, like, what does she get out of this, right? She's not suing him over anything. No one has officially sued Vic Mignogna yet or brought him to court over this, especially probably due to the fact that there's so much that has to involve taking someone to court over something like this that no one has done so as of yet. So the fact that she came out about this, what is she going to get other than potential rape threats and death threats? Even if you don't believe her, just ask yourself, what does she get from all of this?
Right.
Because she's not getting any money from Vic Mignogna. She didn't ask for any money. She's not getting what does praise online actually mean? When someone says, oh, she's going to get praised for coming out with her story, and people are going to believe her immediately. But what does that actually do for her? What does she turn into? Because some people could even say, oh, I don't want to get involved in this controversy and treat her the same way that cons are treating Vic.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I want to invite her to a con because I don't want to get involved in any of this. Like,
right.
It's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I don't think people understand how these allegations work, because they think that she comes out and immediately it's just like everyone is just like what are they doing? What does she gain from this?
Yeah.
Other than more death threats and rape threats.
Right.
Yeah. I want to quote her though exactly on what Vic allegedly had said. Let's see here. She says, okay, at one point, one of the fans starts talking about a series that he's in. This is Vic Mignogna. I said that I actually really liked his role in it. I didn't realize it was him, making a comment on how all his roles usually sound the same. He turns to me and says, oh, I know why you like that series. He then slides his hand up through my hair, which was long at the time, on the back of my hair and tugs hard while saying, because of, and then I guess this is a name being redacted. And then she says she was stunned. My heart sank. A friend ran over. There were a lot of witnesses and asked if she needed to take me away. I just didn't even know how to respond. And if that wasn't bad enough, he did it a second time with the implication that if the other voice actor had, quote unquote, had me, he could too.
Yeah.
So even if people are saying, because here's the thing, right? Even if someone says, I don't believe that Vic did this, I think that she's lying. And let's say someone says that, right? So she's actually, let's just pretend that she's lying for 1 second. What's weird is people then use that to say, so I guess none of this is true. And it's like, I don't know who Jesse Pridemore is. Tristan doesn't know who Jesse Pridemore is. Nobody who is accusing Vic Mignogna of this stuff immediately thought, almost no one thought immediately, oh, of course, like that Jesse Pridemore situation. So what I'm trying to get at here as well is, even if she is lying, which I'm not saying that she's not, but even that she is or that she isn't, but even if she is lying, how does that excuse everyone else who's been accusing Vic of stuff? Like, there's a lot of people who want to defend Vic Mignogna to the point where they'll go, oh, that one picture, that woman wanted to hug Vic Mignogna. Therefore, none of the allegations are accurate. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's not how any of this works. That's not how any of this works. So,
and it just feels like a lot of these fans, come to his defense. And like, okay, if he's a role model to you, or he's just, a voice actor that you like, it's like, look, if you had a close personal friend, and they were, they had allegations against them, at first you'd probably be like, oh, well, I can't believe that, but you would talk to them.
Yeah,
you would go to them and be like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, people who are, like, your friends or your family, like, I get why you would actually stand by them. And some people might not. Some people are like, no, you have to throw them under the bus immediately. But I get why a friend or a family member, you'd be like, I'm not saying this woman is lying, but, like, why would so-and-so do that? I've known them for years. They're family. Or they're my friends. Like, I get it. But this is not one of those situations.
No,
this is not. And it's not even like someone saying, hey, I want to be neutral about this. I don't know. If someone says, I don't know, I want to do more research, I respect you. I do.
Yeah.
I don't know, I want to do more research. Okay. But there are people who immediately are just like, no, I stand with Vic. And it's just like, it just confuses me. It perplexes me, especially after this latest apology, where, looking at his latest apology, we're not going to show the whole thing or any of it because it's 14 minutes long. It's at a recent con that he was at. But I'll say this much. With his recent apology... it's a video. That's the thing. It's the third apology that we didn't talk about just yet. If Vic Mignogna had said this apology the first time, had actually made a video, did not have some dry statement, made a video... I think that while there were issues with this apology, I would have potentially been like, okay, that's not a terrible apology. Right. The problem is that he had his initial apology, which was a picture where he said, due to the climate that we're in. And it was like, oh, no, Vic, no. Yeah. Why are you doing that? You're making it sound like it was okay when I was doing this 15 years ago, but now all of a sudden...
Nobody had anything to say about it then.
It's like, no, people did. That's why you've apologized about it before. Right. And that's what made me initially think that he's never apologized about this before. So that was the first apology. His second apology on the Risembool Rangers, where a Discord where he basically said, oh, this is not true, and I'm being slandered and stuff like that, and hopefully you guys can, if you see this happening online, you can defend me. And it was like, And it's like, no, Vic, don't do that. Because now at this point, it looks like crocodile tears. Where it looks like it just looks like at this point, with this apology, he's doing this in front of a room of people. And instead of him, because the thing is, look, I'm not saying people can't get emotional. I'm not saying Vic can't be an emotional guy. But it just comes off as him going, I'm really sad. I'm sorry, mic test 1, 2, 3, sad. About everything that I've done. No, it's not being picked up. Can we just... Actually, guys, can we just close the door so everyone can hear how sad I am? Guys, can we just... Like, it's just one of those... And I'm not saying that he isn't sorry about what he's done. I'm just saying that when you do an apology like that in front of people and you're interrupting yourself to take out your phone and saying, you know, someone sent me this, and it's like, either read a prepared statement or make a statement like on video without other people there, because it feels like there's points when he's trying to play up to the crowd and it's just like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you sitting there going like...
Because especially like we've both watched the video at one point, you know, he's saying to the crowd, oh, we're all human, we've all done things that we regret. And it's like, okay, granted, sure. But...
Oh, yeah, of course. But like... But that's another thing too. Like you talking about playing up to the crowd. It's just like we've all done things that we regret, and it's just like, yeah, but not that, man. And even if and even if you say like, oh, you know what, you're right. Actually, I may have made someone feel uncomfortable at some point in my life. The problem is that I'm not a celebrity, so I've never made that amount of people feel that uncomfortable for over 15 years.
Right.
Like,
and the fact that, you know, presumably or foreseeably nothing has been done to, you know, correct that behavior, or, you know, there hasn't been enough time where he hasn't been at a convention to have it be like, well, he has not exhibited this behavior in a long time. Maybe he has changed.
Yeah, that is also an issue, is that, you know, he's apologized multiple times, but it seems as if the behavior has not been corrected. We need to give it some time. Take him off of the cons and let him go from some jobs, but we also have to give it some time for him to actually come back and do, not just say.
Right.
He's been doing a lot more saying than he's been a lot more doing, in my opinion.
And then there's, you know, the double-edged sword. It's like, even after time has passed, for something like this, for sexual assault allegations, or even just the idea of making people uncomfortable with a hug or a kiss, even if you didn't mean to, you know, what's the point where you let that person come back and have that kind of test period where it's like, look, we can't have, like, if another allegation from you comes out, and that would be the only way you'd know either, if another allegation
it's true
out,
and that's,
you don't want this to happen to anybody else, to make them feel uncomfortable or unwanted at a convention or anywhere.
And that's a hard conversation to have, because I don't know, because you and I weren't affected by this. So, like, it's hard for us to, you know, we're not the arbiters of this conversation. We're not the judges, you know, of this conversation. Like, we don't know. What I can tell you is this much: something needs to be done. And I'm happy that something is being done, because there's no, I mean, just, if I think you said this last time, Tristan, with all of these allegations, not that we're saying that every single one means that it's happened to the, you know, the umpteenth degree and that he should be thrown in jail or anything like that. But you said this last time, it was very true. You said, with this many allegations, like, you don't just get that just by walking outside.
Right. And you don't just get that from, oh, you know, like with, you know, Broly coming out now and, you know, being a big part of that. It's like, it's not like your fame is what's, you know, triggering this to happen.
Yes, you could argue his fame is why he's been surrounded by this many people for so long, but, you know, like, this many people to do this, and that's why, again, we're saying that something needs to be done, so you remove him away from these people, and hopefully, you know, when he does start coming back to cons, if he does, then things start to change, and you can go, okay, you know, he's not doing this anymore. But it's just one of those things where, in his apology, he just tries to act like everyone has done something like this. Like, we've all had sexual assault allegations. You know, he didn't say that directly, but when you try to appease kind of to a crowd and be like, aren't we all human? It's like, yes, but we all haven't been accused of this. Like, this is something that's pretty heavy. Yeah. To just try to be like, haven't we all? And it's like, and it's interesting too, because like I can't speak for everyone in that room. I mean, people were applauding him in that room after his apology, which I think was a little awkward. But even putting that aside, when he starts talking about like we're all human, haven't we all? I felt like the crowd like kind of pulled back, like we love you, dude, but not all.
Yeah, like, right. Like it really,
it's, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
The video too. I'm like, is this? This doesn't. Nothing about this feels right. Like,
yeah. Well, because I think what it was too is that like the person filming, some people are saying, oh, did he try to get a fan to do it? I don't think he tried to get a fan to do it, because if he did, I think he would have cut in during a much better part, not when he's trying to like tell people to close the door, and him being like, there will be tears, and it's just like I feel like, I don't know, like even if you believe that Vic Mignogna was sorry for what he's done with that apology, it just doesn't come off as right. It just comes off as odd. And I think it's just an odd setting to do it, where he probably should have, again, just filmed a video of him apologizing, giving maybe some of that original statement in video format. And I think that would have been better than him trying to do this at a con. I mean, at one point during his apology, where like it seems like he's crying, he then just straightens up and says welcome to someone who walked in. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what in the fuck? Like, it was just weird. The whole situation has been really frustrating and odd, especially just dealing with people who have come out to hashtag IStandWithVic, because it's just like, again, at this point, I don't know how you could stand with Vic. I don't. Like, you can say, I don't know what to think about this, sure, but to say, I stand with Vic, I don't know what to say about it exactly.
I really think he should step away from being at cons. Like, that would be a good first step.
Yeah.
For stuff past that,
I don't know.
Yeah. You'd probably have to get a trial involved.
And as we're wrapping this up, I do want to mention the reason why that's so hard to do, because I think some people, it's very odd hearing people online talk about stuff like this, because, you could try to say that I don't know what I'm talking about, Tristan doesn't know what he's talking about, Patchy doesn't know what she's talking about, but like, it's just very odd, because people are like, well, why don't you should try him instead of just talking about him. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm not a judge. I do not work in law enforcement. I am not a cop. And I know, by the way, that sounds like something a cop would say, but I'm not a cop. Like, I don't work in law enforcement. So it's just very odd, because like what I would imagine what would have to be done is you would have to, because like, let's say, and I'm not saying that he did, but let's just say that Vic Mignogna did this to me, which he did not. But the question would have to be, well, where did it happen? Where do I live? Where does Vic Mignogna live? Like, question for all of you out there who are like, just, we should have him thrown in jail before we even talk about him at all in this way. Who do we talk to first? Do we talk to cops where I live? Do we talk to cops where Vic's live? Or do we talk to cops where Vic, the con? Place. Yeah, the con took place, because people travel for cons all the time. So this could have happened in Connecticut, Vermont, Australia. Like, I could have went to another country and this could have happened.
And even past that, it would be,
the year.
Rounding up people to hear their testimonies about what happened.
Yeah. And so, like, what do you do? Like, that's the thing where people are talking about, like, oh, he should be arrested before we even discuss this in any way. It's like, but how do you do that?
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, like, legitimately, how do you do that? Right. You can say that I know nothing, but, how do we immediately just sit there and just be like, oh, yeah, we have to talk to the cops. Who are the cops in this case? Again, in New York State, in Vic's home state, or in the state where the con happened? And also, statute of limitations, did those run out? Because if those ran out, then he can't be tried over that, but it sure as shit happened.
Right.
So what do you do? That's the thing, like, talking about, like, oh, he should be thrown in jail and things like that. Someone immediately saying, like, let's not discuss this. Let's just throw him in jail and be done with it. Why aren't you arresting him? It's like, well, I'm not a cop. I can't. We can talk about this story and talk about people's stories about Vic Mignogna, but I'm not a cop. Like, we can't, we some people try to claim that we are judge, jury, and executioner, but we're actually not, right? We're actually not judge, jury, or executioner. We are just talking about this and talking about people who have bore witness to these events, or these events have happened to them directly. So we're going to wrap this up right now. As of right now, we're not going to talk about Vic Mignogna anymore unless new stories come up. And if we do, they will obviously be a lot shorter than this, because I don't think there's going to be much else to talk about pending like a trial or anything like that. I really don't think there'd be much else to talk about. Thank you all so much for listening in again. This one turned out to be a rather long one. Hopefully you learned something from this, because, again, more stuff has come out, and hopefully you watch the entire video. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sorry to say that. I don't mean to be rude to you, person watching the video, but I think we're going to have a similar situation as last time. Just a bunch of people just commenting, where some people have clearly watched the video. Even if they disagree with me, they've clearly watched the video, and I respect them for it. And then other people who are just commenting about stuff like, Vic didn't do it because he definitely did not. And it's like, all right. Like, I don't... After this, especially seeing pictures and hearing his apologies, I don't know how you can sit back and be like, Vic has done nothing at all. I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't know what else to say about this other than I do want to hear what you guys have to say down below. Some of you guys might be like, no, you don't. I actually do. It's just that I don't know what to say at this point if you're going to sit there and say, Vic Mignogna has done nothing and women are lying whores. It's like, well, what do I say to that? How do I have a discussion with you or an argument with you if that's where you stand? And then if someone says to you, that sounds kind of misogynistic. Me? No, I just said a blanket statement about women. How is that misogyny? Just like, I don't know what to do at that point. I really don't know what to do.